Hey people, what's going on? Broken Puppet, welcome back to my drone tutorials. I've got a really fun one today. I'm going to sort of teach you how to do Japanese tattoo waves. I know a lot of people seem to struggle with this one, so I'm going to do a video and try to break it down, try to make it simple for you guys. If it's your first time to my channel, make sure you click subscribe. And if you can, just leave a little like, it really helps your videos out. But for now people, here we go. I'm going to go straight into it. Now the trick of waves is trying to get the right sort of dimensions to them. So you want to start with a wave, basically where the sort of base is going to be. So you want to start off with, say, like a curve. It's going to kind of curve into it, and it's going to be the start where the wave's going to start. So it's just going to curve around. We're going to bring this up, and this is going to start where a wave kind of begins. So it's kind of like its origins. And so I'm going to sort of bring this up. We kind of want to get like a nice kind of sort of shape coming through the top bit. So I'm going to bring this across, and we know this wave is going to go, say, like this. So we're going to curve up here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. So now we kind of want the wave to kind of go like this, and it's going to sort of crash over this way. So we've got this one sense of direction, and once we've got that, we can start branching in what I sort of call the fingers. So you can start branching in little lines. So at this stage, we're just doing lines. We're not going to do any sort of shapes, we're just going to do lines. We're going to sort of keep them in where we think they look, quite nice and cool. So here's a little space here, so I'm going to get a long line just here. You don't want to get too repetition. You don't want to sort of do a line there and then do one here and then one here. You want to sort of make them sound a bit different, so they've all kind of got their own kind of sort of story. And the lines can be one simple curve, or you can kind of bump up into two. You just don't want to keep repeating the same one too many times. So you've got that one coming in here. So this one's going to curve around. So you've got this one's going to curve in here. So say we have the second one's going to curve here. This one might come down like this. And you've got to remember, as it goes around, it's going to slowly kind of rotate and come downwards. So we're going to bring this one, and this one's going to curve back. And each one, if you imagine you sort of bring it back, you basically want it to curve back and be able to slide back into this circle shape. If the line can't sort of like curve back and sort of slide back into that at some point, if you can't kind of create this kind of S, and then it's going to go against the flow. So just try and keep in mind that S is the key. You want to make sure you get that S in there properly. So you've got this one here, so I'm going to branch this out to make it sound a little bit differently. So I'm going to get a little one just on the inside. I'm going to get one branching off the side bit here. This one can come at 1, 2 coming off here. I'm going to fill in this little space just here. Now you want to make sure you leave a little bit of space, because you want to make sure the wave has a bit of body to it. We're going to describe that once we sort of start coming around. So now we've kind of got this rough sort of shape to this kind of wave going in. We're now going to come out and we're going to start fleshing this out now. Now this is the key to it. This is where we start making it look like a wave. So I'm going to bring this up. I'm going to switch. Which one's this? A little darker so we can see. I'm going to curve this up. So we're going to create this little bump here. So it's going to get in. I'm going to create this little bump. These little bumps are very, very important to making the wave look like a wave. So we're going to create this little bump just here. I'm going to create a secondary bump. It's going to bump up. I can see you've got this first little bit coming up here. So I'm going to create this little one just here. So we're going to come here and when we get to this edge, create like there's a little ball at the end. So do it, the little circle at the end, and I'm going to loop around that. And then when you get inside it, just create a little kind of little indent and curve back. I'm going to curve up here, and like I said, we don't need these two the same. So this one's a bit here, sort of like this sort of shape. So you want to make sure this one doesn't repeat this shape exactly as we go into it. So this one's going to bump up, and this one's going to bump out. And when it gets here, I'm going to create a little bump and then maybe a secondary bump. So I'm going to do a little circle, and a little circle just there. So I'm going to loop around that. That's going to curve around, and then this can kind of curve inwards like this. Now it's going to bump into this wave here. So this one's going to sit on top of this wave. So I'm then going to create this curve to kind of give this one something to sit onto. You want to make sure it kind of sits. If it's not sitting, it's not going to be right. So it's going to curve out. So I'm going to keep creating these little kind of bump shapes. So this one's going to curve up. I'm going to get this little bump shape. I'm going to loop that around again into a little sort of ball shape and curve this one back into there. And this one's going to curve outwards like this. It's going to loop around quite a lot, this one. So right, nice kind of sort of loop on this. I'm going to create a little another indent just here, just to make it a little bit different. This is going to curve back around like this. Just here, I'm going to create this little curve here. And before I start this next one, I'm going to have this little curve, and then this is going to curve from there. So you see, rather than just always kind of continuing like this, you're going to create another little layer, this little separation. It's going to make this feel separate, and it's going to make this a bit more interesting. And that's the key to getting this wave looking good. So I'm going to curve this around, I'm going to loop this back, and this is going to come back. So like I said, we want to make sure we've got a nice bit of body. So this one here, I'm going to bring this down. This is going to sit now on top of this one. But I want to make this one kind of feel almost like a secondary wave. So I'm going to bring this line coming back a bit further back, just say here. So it's going to cut quite into this shape. And then again, a little ball shape, I'm going to curve around that. I'm going to kind of loop back from there. I'm going to create a little loop, another little secondary loop just there. Just get like another bit to kind of sort of feel like it's coming off of. This is going to curve down. This one's going to curve here. And this one's going to curve right out. I'm going to curve down. And what I like to do, as they sort of start coming down, I like to make them a little bit longer. You know, it's just sort of kind of tell stories. So it's a little bit shorter, and as it goes around, it feels like they're sort of like crashing down. So you start making them just a little bit longer, not too much. Now, I don't want to see dramatic change, but just enough to kind of sort of like make it a bit different. So we get one here. This little short one, this is going to sort of bounce off of this, like this. And then once you feel you kind of stretched it enough, you're going to bring it to a curve like this. And you know, this is one a lot of people want to keep extending. And at this stage, this is one good wave. So then if you want to get something underneath here, you need to curve this up, going into something else, and you have something here, or have another wave coming in and staying, you know, carrying on. You know, so create another wave like this underneath to carry on. You don't want to drag someone for too far. You know, it will kind of ruin it. And once we've got that, I'm going to create this sort of circle shape. And where this kind of sort of curves around here, you can use this kind of loop as a guideline how to sort of mix into your next one. So kind of loop around in this inside shape. And this could curve up here, and then I could maybe have like another one come up from that section. You know, I get these nice kind of curved sort of shapes coming in. You know, if you want to change direction of a wave, it's very important as well. You want to make sure they all face the same direction. Like, you wouldn't want to sort of do a line like this, coming off it here, going this way. It would not look right. If you want to change direction, you have to change direction of the wave. So what I'd do, like, if I want to change direction, I'd bring in a curve like this, and then start this wave again, coming this way in this direction. You see? You know, if you want to change direction, that's how you got to do it. You got to make sure it kind of loops around and goes like that. There's nothing wrong with changing direction as long as it feels separate from the original one. So I'm going to bring this around here, and I'm going to get this other wave that's going to come down from, say, around here. So I'm going to start off with this kind of curve. And this time I'm going to start from the end. So I'm going to sort of start this kind of curve like this, because I know I want to sort of build up around this. So I'm going to create this curve, get that little ball shape at the end. I'm going to bounce that one up. So I'm going to get a little curve, and I'm going to bounce this coming back. A little bounce on that. I'm going to have this one, and this one's going to sort of cut in. So you see where this kind of curves into now? I'm going to overlap this, and this will start its own separate wave, but this is how you kind of continue it on. So sort of making it separate. You know, it's like a separate wave, but it's going to feel the same because it's kind of underlapping, overlapping, and this same kind of carry them on. So you're going to bump this one like this. So again, just make sure you kind of got this nice kind of curve to it. I'm going to start this back one here. I'm going to have this one kind of curving like this. So this one's going to go much higher. You know, so the idea is it's kind of got this kind of sort of motion, kind of curving around this way. So I'm going to curve that. Again, when I kind of get to this end of this curve here, I'm going to create this little bump. So I want to kind of bump out. I'm going to create a few little bumps here because, you know, a lot of this water is going to kind of build up this way. You're not going to get so much fingers, but you're going to get a sense of like a build up on here. So where you got this, you want a lot of this at this sort of stage because it's kind of sort of hanging down from here. I'm going to create one loop inside this. I'm going to create another sort of loop coming upwards. I'm going to create this sort of cool one where I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create this little kind of loop inside this. Into a secondary bit, which you can kind of sort of join up to this bit here. So you see you've got this nice kind of sense coming backwards now. So now we've got that, I'm going to sort of again just flesh this one out so it kind of makes more sense and more sort of detail. So I'm going to curve around here. Loop this around, get this nice kind of curve here, bump this, a little one there, bump this one up, so this one kind of sits a bit kind of on its own almost, a little bump under there a bit, and I like doing this because where I've done this line going this other way, I like these kind of almost like on a face-to-face moment sometimes. So you've got this kind of wave underneath now, and when we do this secondary wave that switches direction, so I'm going to do this one just here. So I'm going to get this line, so I'm going to bring this line in, and remember that sort of S kind of curve, so I'm going to bring this S curve kind of here, so I make this S curve kind of here, and this one. You want to make sure that, as I said, those fingers kind of follow those kind of curves. As long as it sort of starts from the stem of it, you know, it will make sense. So this initial one's going to curve out here. This one's going to cut into this one a little bit, and I want this one kind of almost like overlapping it. like so. So you see you've got this nice kind of build up and you kind of got this nice kind of negative space in between these two. Bring this one up here, just so you get this nice sort of sense of direction coming to it. So now we've kind of got this one here done. I'm going to add maybe one sort of come around this way. So this one can kind of come up here. Off this side I might create this wave sort of coming this way. You know, most tattoos you're going to sort of follow the same sort of direction. This is just showing an example of how you can kind of sort of twist them. So you see they're all kind of following into this nice kind of flow. And in this flow you can do like water bars, so you can have a lot of sort of black work in here to really kind of bring this out. It's going to curve up, this one's kind of sort of filling, kind of come into this gap a little bit so you kind of get a bit of interaction. Going to bump this one up, you know, you can do this kind of sort of like bump, kind of go bump, bump. So help you get a bit of elevation to your wave. Like so. And now I've got it done, I'm going to get a Sharpie, I'm going to go over it in Sharpie just so we can see everything nice and clearly. And then we'll talk through a few sort of ways you can kind of sort of shade them and stuff. So we'll start off with this bottom one, so we're going to curve this around. Get these nice kind of curves. Just like this. Just take your time, let's get them nice and smooth. We want to get these nice kind of smooth curves to it. This one around. And there, just a little line here, just kind of sort of show where the waves are starting to form. Cut a bit of back just there. So you see this kind of wave feels like it's sort of like looping over now. That original one we first started with, a little curve there. Make sure as you sort of start the wave, you kind of get that nice little kind of curve back to it. So it sort of makes a little sort of point where it's kind of starting. Yeah, it's all about getting the flow right, and I said just make sure it kind of makes sense. So using that sort of S dimension, just to make sure that every kind of sort of like wave kind of feels like it could sort of link up to it. You know, if you can't really make that S shape smoothly, then it kind of feels like it's going against the flow. You know, and because it's water, you know, flow is very, very, very important. So keep bumping these out, keep building them up. Trying to keep similarity between them, but making them kind of individual. So every now and again, just find like a little sort of different kind of sort of bend or a shape. So here, like this one's got a little dip in there. This one's got an extra little bump. You know, so it's all got the same sort of rough direction and a rough kind of form. But you try to give, you know, as much character as you can to each individual kind of wave bit, if you can. You can just keep them all smooth now, and it will look pretty good, you know. But I like to try and give them a bit of character. It's kind of how you sort of take it to the next kind of a sort of advanced stage, you know. Trying to give your waves personality almost, a sense of purpose. Building them up one by one, like so. Now, and it's important to remember you can kind of sort of bring them along, and if you bring them on, you know how you can sort of bend them out. You know, you just don't want to repeat the shape too many times. You know, when you start repeating the shape too many times, it's when it starts to take away from it, and that's what you don't want. So I'm going to bring this one on the outside now. Just bring this bump up, just making it nice and fun shapes. Go that round. I'm just going to bring that one back. So now we've got that one done, and we've done that sort of rotation over here. This first one up. Just there. Comes this inside one just here, and sort of like kind of meet round the top. every now and again, just bring that little kind of loop lock, just like that. You know, these little smooth ones are really good, but every now and again, you want to bring in one of these ones. It kind of resets the shape and kind of feels like it's not repeating too much. Just like that, so you've got this nice kind of sort of one kind of coming across the top. And once we've got this done, we can sort of add some little lines in the background. You know, as if we were doing sort of Japanese kind of water waves. So I'm going to bring this line across here. That one can flick as if it's going in there. You want to make sure you get like a nice kind of smooth flow to them. Now you don't want the lines to kind of go against the overall kind of feel of the image. So I'm going to curve this one around. So I want this nice kind of sort of spiral kind of feeling as it comes through this way. You know, it's the sort of sense I kind of get from the direction of the wave. You know, I kind of feel like it needs to kind of go that way. Get that one around there. So these ones kind of come up that way if you want. And you can always come into like some sort of like sort of spiral shapes you want. You know, spiral shapes are always kind of cool in these kind of images as well. So when you kind of get to the top here, if you wanted to, you can kind of go almost like a bit of a kind of cloud moment. You know, kind of link the kind of wave going into that. You know, there's different kind of ways you can do under those, but yeah, you can easily sort of bring those kind of sort of shapes into it. So once you've kind of got that flow sort of roughly going there, just bring this line out, just flip it off. You know, just kind of get a sense of kind of flow kind of going to it. You know, if you just bring this upon here, this kind of wave sort of comes in this way, so I can sort of bring the spiral maybe come the other way. You know, but you want to make sure you kind of get enough direction where you're not going to kind of end up like overlapping your lines. So that'll do the trick. You know, you've got like a nice sort of shape roughly going on there. So now we'll go down. I'm just going to get my rubber, just rub out those pencil work lines. We don't need those for now. I'm going to teach you a few little techniques in here just in ways you can kind of shade it. A couple of them might not necessarily fit with each other, but I want to show you a couple of techniques, so we'll just see how it kind of looks when it's all done. You know, because generally most waves will sort of be shading in one particular kind of style. You won't really get a few styles kind of mixing with it. But I want to show you guys a few different techniques that I generally use. So what I like to do, kind of start off, say, let's start off with this bottom part. So I'm going to start off on this one, just here. You can see this clearly. So I'm going to get my grey tone, I'm going to bring this, coming back from this line. This first one's going to flick like so. Then what I do, when you kind of get these ones up here, sometimes I can sort of curve this one like this. And this one's going to kind of bump into that sort of shape just there. Here's me a grey. There we go. So you kind of get this sort of loop sensation sometimes. Now what you can do sometimes, you can just kind of wait, you know, just go from inside the wave like this. Just sort of shade kind of around it, leaving a little highlight edge sometimes. You know, there's a nice way of doing it. Like I said, you won't often see these kind of two together. It's two sort of ways you can kind of do this. So you kind of get a whistle comes off the bottom section, you kind of get a whistle comes off like this. You can kind of get like a gradient a lot of times, somewhere it comes underneath. So let's say this bottom part just here. Now we'd get the black kind of swelling down from underneath. So say here, we're going to get a black line coming here. this way. Just imagine we had like a bit of a water wave on this bit, kind of curving up into this. Shape quite nice. So you'd make a sort of start from the beginning, so you kind of get a bit of sort of shade coming up into it, like so. So kind of fade upwards. And kind of connect almost to those little kind of loopy ends. We then, those little kind of loopy corners bits. So you're gonna flick this up. This kind of one's in the center, so this one pretty much kind of fade next to nothing. Like this. You can also do like a little kind of ghost wave sometimes inside it, we can kind of go with like the grey tones. Sometimes it's nice when it's inside the areas. Fade this bit around here. Bring that to the bottom bit so it kind of makes a bit more sense with that. Where's my light one? Kind of get that, and I usually tend to sort of like kind of build up a bit of a grey tone from the bottom, and then I sort of like fade this grey tone out as it kind of goes through the waves. So I'd say flick that out from the start, generally like this, and that kind of fade kind of into the wave, and you can do a little bit it's just going back from the top, from the tips. So like here, just sort of coming back from this bit. So you come with like, sort of like both kind of angles, so you sort of go from the start and from the end. The shades come back. I tend to keep my waves fairly light because usually the background's quite dark. So you normally have sort of Japanese kind of water waves in the background, so these are normally kind of sort of blacked out, and kind of curved outwards into a fade. So see here, I'm going to black out this bit just here. Across here, and this sort of going to a bit of a fade, which I suppose would have been a bit of a under part throughout the top part, that kind of wave just there. So get this grey tone to come over this bit. Spread that over. Just fade that out. So again, the same sort of thing. You kind of get like a bit of a fade kind of from the bottom bit just here. Work up into this one. And then you'll see when I do the next bit, the next bit's going to be the dark areas around here, so you see kind of why I leave it kind of light. So you get black from the bottom, then these kind of water bars just here, so you're going to get black from the bottom, cutting across like so. Now a lot of time they're just absolutely pure black, and then they usually kind of go into a bit of a fade. So this one here, I'm going to have that black from the bottom bit, and I'm going to fade upwards as it comes outwards on this one. But these usually surround the waves. This is why I usually have my waves quite light, because these backgrounds are usually quite dark. Just get a little bit of fade just on this corner of the edge, just here. And then just kind of carry those on, and usually the further they go along, the sort of the lighter they get. I tend to always make sure I've got a bit of black just in the corner edge of them. But I make the edge gets, the black gets smaller and smaller the further it kind of goes along. So here I'm just going to bring this up across. But you see, compared to how much black kind of went across here, in this section it's going to be much kind of shorter. This grey across. Now just go down to lighter shade and just kind of fade it out. Now generally with water waves you have the bottom section darker than the top. You can alternate it, but that's usually how I sort of do mine. But as I said, everyone sort of does it a little bit differently. That's generally how I do mine. So I'm going to do a few of these kind of water waves in the background, just to kind of sort of show you, so you get a bit of sort of darkness behind them, and it kind of really help sort of show you why I sort of shade certain bits in certain areas in certain ways. Shade that up. Let's get this last blend, just blend this one out. I think I'll just do this one just here, and then I'll sort of show you the inside shading bits. Let's get that black going just there. And remember, reason I do the bottom parts black instead of the top sections when I'm doing the waves, it's just generally because of the way the ocean is. You know, the darker, the further you go down into the ocean, the darker it gets to the bottom. So I try to make the bottom part darker, just to kind of represent it, really. Just in case you're wondering why you kind of do it that way around. So now I've got that section, I can sort of like shading this kind of wave a little bit, so you can kind of see. So you can kind of bring the sort of shade back. So if you see, if I'd done that too dark, it'll kind of feel like I kind of got lost, but having this sort of light means it sort of shows up a lot better. Where you kind of get this loop just here, what you can do is create little loops off the bottom of it. Curve that up like this. And you see them on the bottom here, so you can kind of create this curve around here. And these sort of ones just really kind of sort of tell the shape of the wave, so it kind of gives a bit more dimension in the actual inside it, so you can kind of see how it sort of directs and stuff. You can also bring off the side bits like this to kind of get a sense of the curvature coming off. You don't always have to have the line necessarily coming inside it to do that. But yeah, you can't really go wrong sort of doing it that way, and it's just a nice easy way of doing it, just getting that sort of bottom edge kind of curving off and just picking off little shapes and really sort of trying to tell the shape of it that way. Another common way of sort of seeing it, like I said, is when the whole thing is generally sort of shaded in. So let's say this sort of section here, I'm going to sort of come up here. I'm going to sort of shade everything in pretty much except for the little sort of edge just around the side parts. So we go there, just blend this up. You'll often get like a transition going the whole way through it, so the further it goes down, the darker it tends to get. You know, if you're sort of too worried about sort of taking on anything too kind of complex, you know, this is a good way of doing it. Quite a sort of traditional kind of way of doing it. What I also like doing this sometimes, that's when I do these little sections. Just give like another little layer just on top, so it's kind of like a slightly darker grey tone. And just give these little circles. I kind of do this. They're not getting darker than that one. Wear that section a little bit too much, I think. So a little circle like this, and then maybe a little circle just around. You know, it kind of gives like a little bit of sort of like a wet sort of dot kind of effect. I don't know, there's something about it I really like, and I often quite do that. You can also do it negative as well, where you kind of leave the spaces, you know, just pure white, so you can always leave, say, like a little section like this. You're going to fade around it. Now the negative also looks good as well. Yeah, you can sort of go from the stems, you can kind of go from directly inside it. I like to generally leave like little highlight edges, so I often sort of like avoid the edges. You know, it kind of adds to it. And it also separates it, you know, from the wave, because you get that nice, clean, pure kind of white outline. It really separates the wave from the water waves in the background. So if I sort of put this bit here just in black, you can see what I mean. They're quite heavy with the black in this section. You can see, because of that little white highlight edge, it really makes that stand out in comparison to the black. Yeah, very, very important. Let's go bring in this water wave, just come around here. Now you can do all your water waves just pure black if you want, and just leave like a little white edge, you know, just as you get towards the end. You know, but in my opinion, I always prefer a gradient. I think a gradient just kind of makes it. So flick that up there. Again, just do the same thing, just kind of work for the grey tones. Now, it's very fun to do this with like kind of water paints. You know, I really love doing this stuff with water paints. Pen and ink is also really fun for it as well. I just generally use markers. I think just markers are just easy to teach people, because I think most people generally draw like sort of pencils, pens and stuff. But you know, feel free to use any kind of medium you want, whatever you kind of got at hand. You know, if you want to give it a go with something else, you know, give it a go with that. It's all the same sort of thing in the end, it's just different means of applying it. So pencils, paints, markers, you know, pastels, just all different ways of doing the same thing. Just keep bringing it in there, let's get a nice little fade on that bit. So you can see kind of how it builds up, and you start to get this nice kind of sort of flow to it. Like I said, you know, I've done a bit of a mix. You know, usually like if I've done this, I'll do this all, say either this style, or this style. I wouldn't do like a mix up. You know, although the mix up ain't too bad in this case, I think it works quite nice. You know, like I said, it's very important to kind of sort of just be aware of what you're doing. You know, just make sure if you are mixing up styles, that the styles are going to sort of like kind of match in a way. You know, if they're not going to match, just make sure they're a little bit separate. It's just important, in my opinion. Just makes it better. Just over that section just there done. Just going to get a few little bits just down here. And then we'll just finish colouring in the rest of the waves. So I said the bottom wave is always going to be the darkest one. So this kind of sort of wave we're coming in here, I'm going to have fairly dark. As it flicks around, it kind of comes into this one. And the second one, I'd bring this black side across and leave a bit more of a gap. So it kind of cuts into this bit, so it gets smaller. In that bit, just a little bit of black just behind here, so you can see where that kind of follows through. And just go into my dark grey. Blend those out. So a little bit of grey just on this edge, just to kind of soften it up. You know, sometimes your hard edge is really nice. You know, I'm not really a fan of it in this particular case. It's something that I do use quite often. I do often use a hard edge, you know, when I'm sort of doing this kind of waves, but I just don't particularly want it in this case. Let's bring that wave just there. Again, just bring this one a little bit shorter. This one's like coming kind of less than halfway now. Sometimes it's nice to throw in a bit of a combination as well, where you sort of go, say, kind of sort of dark, light, 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 and then a dark one. You know, I'm quite a fan of that. You know, just throwing in like that sort of one that kind of sort of shakes it up a little bit. I do the same sort of thing when I'm sort of doing, say, like hair a lot of the time. When I'm sort of doing neo-traditional hair, if I'm doing it in sort of sections. You know, sort of draw little bits now and then. One bit I sort of go dark, dark, you know, say light, and then for another little dark section. Now the contrast really does work. And it works in a lot of different things. Let's get these last couple of ones just around here. I'll make this one dark. Just to do what I just said a second ago, just so you can see what I mean. It hasn't always got a purpose as well. Sometimes it's nice just to kind of just randomly throw it in there. You know, if you can kind of have a purpose for doing it, then it, you know, it is always better than that. But sometimes, you know, just a random one achieves the same effect. Just black out this centre bit just here. So you see, that's the kind of effect when you kind of get black on pure black kind of ones, just there, you know, against this sort of thing, you know, you get like a nice kind of contrast. So this black one just here. Might throw another black one. Actually, I'm going to keep this wave coming around this way actually, so it's going to come around here. Come around to that bit just there, I think. Now you can overlap them. When you kind of get this sort of like shapes, then you can kind of overlap them and tuck them underneath. Like see here, this one's going to go here and this is going to tuck underneath this one. So if you bring two sort of like, you know, sort of wave bars next to each other and you don't know what to do, just tuck one under the other. But just important, just make sure if you are bringing this one over, make sure this one then goes over all the ones that are generally going that way. You know, it won't really look right if you sort of try and sort of say go one by one. Like if this one overlapped, then that one overlapped, then overlaps, and you kind of get like a sort of patch kind of pattern, just would not work, in my opinion. And you might better make it work, and you might better prove me wrong, but just in my opinion, I just can't really see that one kind of working. So we've almost got this one here done now. There. And as it is a spiral, I'm just going to have this kind of grey in this one. Just looping around like so. Go off that way. And then it's going to come down to this bottom bit and just get this section down here kind of flowing into this. So I'm going to add a little bit of black. I'm not going to add too much because I quite like this kind of white spike here, so I'm not going to go too crazy over that. Just want to kind of blend it out into it. So just bring a little bit of that grey. I'm going to transition to it pretty quickly, so I'm just going to flip this up a little bit. I'm just going to the light one. I'm just kind of cool that on that a little bit down the bottom. But I like that. I like when the waves kind of work up into the wave sometimes. I think it looks really nice. Get this one kind of coming down this way so it flows off. There's a bit of black in this space just here. Let's bring Bring a bit of grey just in between that bit. Just kind of flowing in that gap a little bit, I think. And then just kind of flick this one off into there. So now I've got that done, I'm going to come down to the grey shade again, just get these last little ones just in these kind of waves. So doing that same thing, just coming off that edge, bringing that back. Just bringing it back. Just run that throughout the whole sort of one, so it kind of gives a nice bit of symmetry to it. And these ones are on the other side, just over here. Gonna go black on the edge, and then I'm just gonna fade it off to nothing. So I'm almost kind of shading reverse with this one, so this is gonna like, rather than starting from the stem, we're kind of coming from the edge. Kind of fading the other way. This down, blend this out a touch. And then it's going to do these two little ones here, a little bit there, and we'll call that it. So you can see, I mean, there's lots of different kind of ways of doing this. You know, for the waves, it's all about trying to get a nice kind of flow. Like I said, just getting those nice kind of S-bends. You know, the water waves in the background, you kind of just want to make those kind of sort of flow off of the waves. And get those nice dark bottoms and nice sort of kind of highlights in the right kind of areas. Very, very, very important. Now I'm just trying to sort of play around with your blacks, you know, just trying to see how dark you want to go in certain areas. Because obviously you want the water waves to be dark. And as I said, just make sure your waves ain't too dark, you know, against them. Now, unless that's purposely what you're kind of going for. But that would be a very kind of hard look to kind of achieve, and sort of dark waves against dark waves. You know, like I always say, like, you know, all things are possible, you know, it would be very hard to achieve, but general rule of thumb, you want to go light against light, really. Sorry, get light against dark, rather. So I've been drawing all day now, and I think I'm starting to kind of babble on a little bit. We're talking a little bit of nonsense at times. I tend to get that way when I'm going to get a little bit tired, I start talking a bit of nonsense, so you have to forgive me on that one. Just keep blending this one out. Let's get my last blend, I think, and that's to do the trick. Just fade that one out. Fade that one out. So yeah, people, that's how you do a bunch of Japanese waves. Now, I hope that's helped you. You know, just keep the key points I said from there, just like the S-curves, the sort of shaping, the way you kind of layer them up. You don't have the same sort of waves over and over. You know, make sure you kind of build on the backs of them. Branching off, if you want to change direction, make sure the waves kind of sort of switch direction. Don't just randomly sort of change direction coming off the back. You know, getting a nice kind of flow to them. But yeah, people, I hope that's helped. Make sure to check out my videos. You know, I've got hundreds of tutorials on my channel, and if you can, give this video a like, you know, I really do appreciate it. It really does help. But for now, people, I'm The Broken Puppet, and I'll see you next time. Peace.